here with our Mayor of Florence, South Carolina, Mayor Stephen Wukela. He's here with us today at Majority Missionary Baptist Church to help us celebrate the life of our FOB Saulter. She is turning 100 today, and he's come take out the time to join us in celebrating with her. Thank you so much, Mayor Wukela, for being with us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. And how are you this morning?
Doing fantastic. Very well.
So I understand that you have met Mother FOB Saulter.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And what are your thoughts on her and her turning 100, and how do you feel about that?
It's just fantastic. Mother Saulter is so important to this community, this church. I've had the opportunity to be here at Majority many times and met with Mother Saulter's, and it really is. It's hard to imagine 100 years, isn't it? What she's seen in her lifetime.
Yes, sir. 1913.
Good night.
I can't imagine. Yeah. I can't imagine. And how her worldview is now from way back then, and all the decades that she's been through, and the changes that the world has been through in that amount of time. It's quite a long time.
You think about the changes in technology and the changes in law. When she grew up in a segregated community, and now we've had just enormous changes throughout this country. So it's amazing just to consider what she's seen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, indeed. So just a few questions about, some of your policies. I've been reading about some of your policies, and one that really caught my attention was your focus on juvenile crime and your coalition that you have set in place for that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a mayor's coalition against juvenile crime, and it's not aimed at enforcement at all. It's a number of entities that come together: the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, the city, and churches, numerous others, to create programs that help young people have focus and get them off the street and support them and try to divert them from crime. Certainly, in Mother Saulter's lifetime, she saw different types of community that young people grew up in, which communities that were much closer, and that children were the focus of those communities. Fortunately, over time, somewhat that's dispersed, and I think it's important for me as mayor to try to reinvigorate that idea that we need to support these young people and give them focus and help them succeed in life.
Well, clearly this is something that is very important to you, for you to take such measures to have some control over this sort of thing. And we do understand that it has been successful. Crime has been down.
It has, and we've had significant decreases in juvenile crime during my tenure. We also created a community action team, a number of police officers that focus on neighborhood policing. I've also pushed for neighborhood redevelopment and community activities that give young people activities to do off the street, so that we can continue to grow our young people. And the church is so important in that, as you understand. And so I think working together we can achieve that focus.
Yes, sir. And speaking on the importance of the church, what type of influence does that have over, how you run the city and politics you set in place?
Listen, it's critically important. I don't think a lot of people realize, they see me here sometimes Sunday with Pastor Porter or in other churches, but they don't realize the amount of communication and activity that goes on between myself and members of the church and leadership of the church and the pastors. We spend a lot of time working together to try to focus our efforts, because you understand we're trying to achieve the same thing. And so it only makes sense that we work together towards that goal. So I can't tell you how important your pastor is and how important the leaders in the church and this community are towards that effort.
So are you familiar with the fact that we are looking to expand the church?
Very, very familiar. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts on that, and how you feel that will affect the community, and specifically, directly affect the community that we're sitting in physically, our location, and then the rest of Florence? How do you think that will affect the residents here?
Pastor Porter and I share the vision for this entire community, and the idea of what can be accomplished here by investment and work. Of course, there is a church aspect to that, and the majority has very much taken the head in this part of the community, and with the efforts of expansion, I think that's very important. The city has its role in that as well, and we're working very diligently to improve the community, in particular the junkyard property, former junkyard property that's located at the end of Sumter Street. That was in horrible condition for many, many years. The city has purchased and cleared all those properties, parcels, and I'm happy to say that there are architects at work right now designing plans to have a free clinic there, hotel, that will be about a $10 million investment in the first phase, by the 50,000 square foot facility, that will provide free medical care or medical care on a sliding scale for those who need it, but very high quality medical care, and medical care that serves all the elements, from pharmacy to testing to the actual physician visit, located in the community so people can walk to the physician, get the treatment they need, get the prescriptions they need, and be able to walk home. I think that works hand in hand with what Majority is doing here, just a block away. And I think together we can build this community into what it can be.
Healthcare is extremely important to not just the people of Florence, but of course people all around the world, and specifically in the United States with the healthcare reform and Obamacare, as they call it, coming up. What are your thoughts on that, and how you think that will affect your city?
It's enormously important, and I will tell you, the construction of this facility will be possible because of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, because of a $6 million grant that we've been able to obtain through the help of Congressman Clyburn through the Obamacare statute. That's critically important, and it's important to the entire community. And what it does is get people important primary care that they wouldn't otherwise get. And it also is cost effective because when people otherwise get their treatment through the emergency room, they get more expensive care and less effective care. And you might be surprised to learn that a lot of the hospitals think that's very important to get those people important primary care instead of having them in the emergency room. And so I can't tell you how important what has become called now Obamacare, and I don't think the president objects to that, and I don't object to that. I think that's one of the most important legislative accomplishments in this country's history, and I know that it'll be successful going forward. And we can see that just within this 2-block area because of the investment just down the street.
Wonderful. Well, I have a personal feeling about healthcare and the fact that, just like what you touched on, people go into the emergency room so often, and using that as their primary care doctor really is what they usually end up doing because of lack of insurance, because they know that they can go to the emergency room and they won't be turned down. But, I think that Obamacare is really going to change a lot of things in that aspect. And preventative health is something that is very important to me as well. We do have a young man here at Majority Missionary Baptist Church who was a 5-year cancer survivor as of this year, and he has started a campaign. And he calls it Operation Gump, a mile in my shoes, Gump, like Forrest Gump.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing is he's attempting to, raise awareness in the city. And of course, we want it to trickle out. But right here in the city that we're in right now in Florence, South Carolina, and he is running every single day in the month of October. Yes, sir. So the 1st through the 31st, he's already started this and trying to spread the word as much as possible. And what he does is run or walk a mile every single day in the month of October. And he does this on behalf of 3 categories of people. So people who have been affected by cancer because they have had cancer and they've survived, people who have lost someone to cancer, and people who are, fighting that fight.
Absolutely.
With cancer. Do you run, man?
I've started running of late. I used to play soccer in my youth, and I could run quite a bit. And as I got older, I didn't do it as much. But my wife has urged me to get back into it. In fact, I was on the treadmill the other day, and I've not become accustomed to it. I had my earphones in and my iPod on, and I was swinging my arms, and I hit the thing, and it fell, and I went to grab it, and of course you stop. Shot me off the back of the thing, and but I was just fine. So I'm not used to it yet, but I'm trying to get back into it. My wife is an avid runner. In fact, she's run quite a few marathons, and she enjoys it very much. But we'll have to support that effort. And it's not just, it's important for government and society, and it's a secular effort, but it's also a spiritual effort. Yes. I mean, the gospel tells us that when the sheep and the goats are separated, we will determine who has fed those who are the least among us, who were hungry, who has given drink to those who are thirsty, who's given care to those who need health care. And that's a spiritual goal, I know, of this church, as it is a goal of the government. And it's just exciting when young people who are survivors can demonstrate through nonprofit efforts the support for the healthcare of the community. That's really reassuring.
Okay, so I have a series of other questions here
Okay.
for you. Just something that we kind of get to know a little bit more about Mayor Stephen Wukela.
All right, fine.
Okay, so complete this thought for me.
Oh my goodness.
I appreciate my family the most when.
I appreciate my family the most when, I think the most when we're sitting around the dinner table at the end of the day and talking about their days. I've got 3 young boys, a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old that's getting ready to turn 8 this month, and a 5-year-old that's getting ready to turn 6 this month, and they're all boys. And when we get together as a family at the dinner table at the end of the evening, and you get to hear from them what went on in their life that day, and my wife gets to talk about her day, that kind of family time being together, I don't think there's any replacement for that. And I have a job that can be stressful and that can be riddled with a lot of anxiety. But all that goes away when you go home and you sit down with your family and you talk about what's really important. And so that's one of the times I get to enjoy my family.
How about this one? My favorite secular song is.
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Come on, what gets you moving, man?
I like the Beatles songs.
Okay.
One of my favorite songs is "Yesterday." That's a beautiful song, I think, and I can't imagine how that just comes out of them. But I suppose that's one of my favorite secular songs.
Okay. What about my favorite gospel song?
Oh, "Fly Away." Oh, I've heard it so many times here in Majority, and that's just, I don't think it gets better than that. "Fly Away in the Morning."
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Let's see. What about your greatest influence in life?
Greatest influence in life. I've had a lot of influences, but one of the biggest influences I've had, obviously, is my father. I had the benefit of growing up with a very strong father, a military man, who came out of the Army and finished law school just before I was born, and we moved here to town. And I practiced law with him. I see him every day, and we talk every single day about important things in government and family and in life. And a lot of people don't have that benefit. My father didn't have that benefit. His father died earlier on, and I really never knew my grandfather. He certainly didn't get to spend every day with him the way I do with my father, but he's certainly one of my biggest influences.
Okay. Now, if you had the chance to meet anybody, absolutely anybody at all, and ask them, some questions.
Is that live or dead?
Live or dead.
Oh,
live or
okay.
dead, sure. Who would that person be?
Oh, Abraham
and
Lincoln.
What would you ask them?
Abraham Lincoln is it? I'm a history buff, and I really I enjoy reading biographies of history, and I'm really I'm in the middle of a multi-volume biography of Lincoln right now, and it's hard to imagine what this country went through and what he went through in the decisions he made. And so I'd love to have, if I could eat dinner with Abraham Lincoln, I would take that in a second.
Okay. So I would assume that he would be probably your favorite historical figure?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Why would you say that is specifically?
Well, he came to the presidency at a time when this country was being ripped apart. And he had important moral decisions to make, important practical decisions to make. He came to a administration that was very much divided, and everybody in his cabinet were rivals of his one way or another. In fact, they've written a very good book about him called Team of Rivals. And he was able to bring together a group of people who were all rivals, not only in his own administration, but in the entire country, and finally bring them together and overcome a major division in this country, both politically and morally. And so I don't think there's a historical figure that's more important.
Okay. All right. Well, we understand that our mother, Uncle B. Saulter, she not too far from Abraham Lincoln. She was born in 1913.
Yes.
What a legacy to leave behind.
Yeah.
You know, what would you want your legacy to be? We all go on at some point, and you know, far down the line, when you do, what would you want your legacy to be that you've left for your children, for the city of Florence? You know, what would you like that to be?
Well, you know, it's my hope and goal that one day my boys will grow up healthy, happy, with a firm sense of themselves, confidence, well-educated, well-disciplined, with a strong family and a happy family, and a community that they can be proud of, that's equitable and growing and prospering, and that maybe they will look back on their life and say, you know, part of this is because of my father, the education and discipline that they come up with, and maybe even the nature of the community was somehow influenced by my having been.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being with us here at Majority Missionary Baptist Church today. It's always a pleasure.
It's good to see you.
Always an honor to have you here. We hope you have a wonderful time today in the service as we celebrate, as I said, the birthday of our mother, the B. Saulters, and we have a wonderful service put together in her honor today. We're so happy that you're here to join with us.
Well, I know I will. Maybe this thing fly away in the morning.
We may put in a special request. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.